again, what I would consider kind of one of the most complicated things to do when you're trying to capture the information around your data systems. And part of it is the systems that we typically use to create, to do this data processing. Oftentimes it can be just straight ahead queries or codes or reports or ETL tools and things. They don't always lend themselves to good discovery and extraction of the information, but you know, it can be found. So allow yourself to understand that this is difficult, and that you need to come up with strategies that focus on and prioritize the things that are going to impact the goals that you have, right? And don't worry too much about other things to begin with. So again, understand your goals and track what serves those goals. So here's the biggest trick. The easiest way to document lineage is to capture it as it is created, right? So if someone is going and creating a new extract or creating a new API or creating a new, you know, view, right? The information, and if they were just doing this kind of in a vacuum, maybe they're writing the query, or they're, you know, building some sort of extract in whatever tool they're doing, and then they're done. And the object to entity or the transformations and all that stuff is buried in that code and hard to extract. It's hard to separate the field information from the table, you know, from the process information, all that kind of stuff. So if you give them a way basically to document that or create the specifications as you go, it's going to be infinitely more helpful than going back in time and documenting those old things. So, you know, have developers document the processes as they build them. Additionally, there are ways to extract existing lineage, right? So, you know, look at your different data processing tools and see what native features or third-party tools they have to extract lineage info into a readable format, right? So you want to say what's, you know, there are some tools that will convert queries into tokenized sources and targets, right? Or you might be able to look at like your ETL tool that you're using or your process to populate your ODS or something, and say, hey, some of those tools come with ways to extract out lineage information, or at least something that can be converted into lineage information. And so that's the reason. Now there are tools that will, also third-party tools that will inspect a variety of different tools, and some of them very much specialize, like, oh, you know, it can, this is a tool that does for inspecting, you know, SSIS packages. This is one that specializes in inspecting Informatica packages. This is one that specializes in inspecting SQL queries. Those types of things that can help, again, pull out tokenized information from those things. There's some of that you can do with the cookbook. But the cookbook is primarily, as we'll talk about tomorrow, designed to be that standardized target and repository for all this information, either as you're defining it as you go, or once you're able to, for any one of those tools, extract that information and be able to import it in a standard format. So now, if you cannot document it, can you point to it, right? So, all right, if we back up to we know that we're coming from like this entity to this entity in this process, or this system to this system in the process. At least you can sort of point to, here are the, you know, here's where those ETL processes or those views live, so that someone at least knows in your common repository a starting point to go find that information out if the only opportunity you have is to go dig in the code, right? So that might be something that's helpful for the auditors, if nothing else, but also for a report writer or someone who really needs to debug or figure something out. They don't have to discover what exists and where it lives. Instead, you can at least sort of point to that, even if you can't tokenize and generate mappings automatically. All right. So again, if this all seems hard, like tools like the Data Cookbook can really help to bring all this stuff together to manage it. Oh, sorry, I'm saying. So the other thing you can do here is to create a repository for storing your lineage, right? Or pointing to it. To create standard specification templates, the things to store, like for processes, the sources and targets, like the mappings, and maybe you have spreadsheets for this or something like that to store the source, target, and process lineage. You can also use this to document contextual documentation. So instead of, what that means is instead of documenting real integration processes, you're just documenting sort of, you know, entity to entity or system to system or something, or even object to object mappings at a conceptual level for the purpose of tracing things, but not necessarily documenting a general process. Once you have sort of a standard repository, then you want to document new processes in those specification templates as you build them. and map copy existing processes into the templates if possible. If you can get those things extracted in a standard format, figure out how to get those into your standard tools, and then a standard format. And then lastly, one of the things is that specifications should be related to the data model objects. So you start off documenting the processes, which is helpful, but that's not incredibly helpful if when you're looking at a data model object, you can't see how it's related to the process. So in a tool like the Data Cookbook or some of these other repositories for data catalog information, this lineage mapping, it has, in the sort of database, it's related to the field, right? So you can, if you're looking at the data model, you see, oh, how is this used and where's